Well, on this episode of Unpopular Disney Opinions, it's a very special one. So special that Lindsey actually had to step away for it. I'm just kidding. Mostly because she actually doesn't watch a lot of Marvel movies, and that's surprising. So I had to bring on two of the best people that I know to talk about Marvel, the best Marvel movies, because that's what we're talking about today. And you've already heard them on the podcast. That's Sean Sullivan and Erik Mihlsten. What's up, guys?
Heyo.
What up? Excited to be back. I feel like Sully did so well last time that I really have to step up my game this time.
No, you guys both did amazing. Both of those episodes were our most listened episodes. So
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
exactly. And I know this one is going to be just as listened to because I feel like I was having to pick my favorite children with best Marvel movies.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
I went on a date with Lauren last night. We had a date night, and I literally spent the entirety of dinner talking about this decision and antagonizing it. And Lauren's like, "We're on a date. Like, you don't want to talk about something else?" And I'm like, no, this is like an important decision I'm struggling with right now
for the pod.
I definitely had to ask at least one other person, like, hey, what do you think of my 3? Is it going to be really bad? And they're like, no, it's not that bad. I'm like, oh.
There's a difference between favorite and best.
Correct. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between favorite and best. And it's something that Lindsey and I have been working on because when we first started this podcast and I was like, okay, so we're going to do favorite for this one, right? She's like, sure. And then she would throw out best. I'm like, Lindsey. So yes, it is best Marvel movies. I know that. I'm well aware. You will hear Guardians of the Galaxy at some point though, unfortunately.
For sure.
Yes. And same rules applied. Whatever. Me and Sully and Erik have not discussed what our movies are. We've discussed independently, but this is the first time we're discussing all 3 of us. So who wants to go first?
Sully, start us off.
All right.
Yeah. I'll go first. Sure. Number 3 for me is probably a little higher on the list for one of our fellow contestants here, as it were. I got to go Guardians of the Galaxy number 3. I think it was just such a different movie at the time from Marvel, and the decisions from James Gunn to bring in the cassette player. The music is undefeated. Pink actually gave me the soundtrack on vinyl for Christmas one year. I loved it so much. It's so good. Showing my cards there a little bit, how much I like this movie. But it is truly one of the best. I think it's, Star Wars it meets Back to the Future, and it's just such a fun Rick-rolling adventure, and it was completely different from anything up to that point. So I think it was definitely in my top 3.
Funny thing. Go for it, Heather.
No, Erik, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the funny thing here is I think Heather is actually more upset that you didn't rank it higher.
Yeah.
No, because everybody's different, right? And I'm curious to hear what the other 2 bested for Sully. Because I have my own personal reasons why I have it higher than number 3 on my list, which is absolutely no surprise. My surprises are definitely going to be number 3s and 2s. But I think, in my opinion, Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack is the best soundtrack of any Marvel movie that they've had. Arguably to Black Panther, but those 2 soundtracks, like there is not a soundtrack almost better than those 2.
No, absolutely not. Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, I will 100%. I think we all can agree
it's Forrest Gump level.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it like that, but
standard.
Yes, Sully.
Yep. It's good.
So my third is going to be probably more of a surprise, but I'm going to go with Ant-Man.
Okay.
And I actually just decided that at this moment, like it was toggling between 3 and 4, and I finally just was like, I'm going to go for it, and I made that decision. Now it's Ant-Man.
I like that decision.
3.
Okay, did you make that because Paul Rudd is now the sexiest? The
2021
sexiest man alive. I mean, it's like the biggest shock of the year.
It's just, I mean, one, big fan of Paul Rudd, and like just the cast overall, like just the whole concept. Who doesn't love a heist? I love heist movies, number one. And this is a great heist movie with superheroes, which is like elevates it to like another level for me. So I really just enjoyed it. I mean, it was witty banter. It was
super funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Paul Rudd's hilarious. It's the connection between him and what's her face, the Wasp. So awesome.
Is it Evangeline Lilly? Is that who it is?
I think so. I can't.
Lilly.
Yeah, I couldn't remember her name. But
did you know that Evangeline Lilly is the only at this point she's I think the only female Marvel superhero that actually has her hair tied back?
I did not.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I know. I read an article that she's the only one that has been allowed to tie her hair back, and it's kind of a big deal because if you think about all the rest of them, they have their hair down,
the hair flowing, right?
But like, if I'm, going to boxing or I'm, going to combat, I'm not going to have my hair down. So it's almost been like a hilarious oxymoron.
Yeah.
Like,
good luck fighting with a bunch of flowing hair in your face.
And I think an interesting thing about Paul Rudd playing Ant-Man and his character really is like, I almost think of it as like they wanted Spider-Man. Spider-Man is right, your friendly neighborhood. He provides kind of a quirkiness to the Avengers, right? When he shows up in like Civil War and Paul Rudd and him kind of meet, right? And I feel like I just Paul Rudd just really, to me, really is that character. And that personality embodies him, and it was so much fun to watch.
I think Michael Pena makes those movies. He's so funny.
Yes.
I think Olaf
is based off Michael Pena, or maybe the other way around. But I feel like there's a relationship.
It's a stream of consciousness. It's so funny. Yeah. So good.
I will say when Paul Rudd first got announced, I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to pan out. But I can't remember. Was Civil War? Civil War was after Ant-Man 1, right?
Correct.
And that's when I was like, dang, Ant-Man 1's pretty good, He was the right fit for it. That's for sure.
My one bone to pick, I don't think the stakes are that. I mean, they're pretty high. Corey Stoll or whatever, however you say it. The villain, take him or leave him.
Oh yeah, I know. He was a weak as fuck character on what is it? House of Cards? Is that what that show's called?
I haven't seen it. I can't say.
Never seen it.
You guys haven't seen it? It's with Robin Wright and
I know
it got canceled. Yeah. It was really fantastic. He was also in that show. He was very weak. So sometimes I feel like when you play something right before this, that's kind of not even above average, you might be stepping into like, I don't know, uncharted territory. Cause I was like, oh, that was the last thing I saw him in. I didn't like it. And now you're stepping to this, like now you're like a super unlikable character. And yeah, weak sauce.
So what you got, Pink? What's your shock us with the 3?
I know this might be, it's not really biased, but I think almost unfair because Sully, I don't think you've seen this one. And I don't think, I'm going to apologize now if I'm badgering the name, that is Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings.
Yeah, I have seen that.
And oh, you did see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you did. The last time we talked, you didn't. Oh. Anyways, listen, if I was picking my favorite Marvel movies, I probably would actually put this higher. Because that's how much I enjoyed Shang-Chi. But I feel like a lot of the other Marvel movies relied on this Hollywood CGI, right? Avengers Endgame. I mean, even Guardians of the Galaxy, they rely on the CGI. And I feel like Shang-Chi really just tried to put all their eggs in the basket into the action sequences and really kind of pay homage to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which also Michelle Yeoh.
They had a flaming dragon fight like a bunch of different beasts.
Well, outside of that, but the bus scene literally,
bus scene
was dropped for and yes, they were on the side of a building, but the thing is there was a lot of those shots that weren't facing outwards, and so you could tell it felt real. They spent a lot of time working on those action scenes more than I feel like a lot of other movies in the Marvel universe, the MCU. I mean, I loved the there was a little bit of everything in it for me, except for romance, which I wasn't upset about. I wasn't upset about it.
I don't think it was right for it. And I will say though that to your point about the sort of the practical effects, the bus crash was real. Like that was so cool. They actually crashed that bus, and for that scene with the garbage truck, and spoilers, apologies for people who haven't seen it, streaming November 12th. If so, people can watch it all over and might have already watched it. So
they better have watched it by the time this podcast is live.
I got the weekend.
They got the weekend, and then some. But yeah, I mean, I love the homage to the culture. I love the dragon scene, yes, but I love that it wasn't that long. Like the action sequences outweighed the CGI stuff. I loved Awkwafina. Loved that she was not too like comedy, but yet still had a few of those moments that kind of kept that comedic relief. And honestly, like the main character, he was awesome. And the fact that on social and like afterwards you find out that he did this Shutterstock, and he like owns up to it, that back in the day he got paid to do a Shutterstock photo shoot of like office like shots. And they're all over the internet, and like people they have resurfaced them.
The Getty images.
They've been photoshopping his face on other ones, and he has just smashed it. And I feel like I liked The Rock before Moana, but he had the same effect where afterwards he's showing how his daughter loves Maui and doesn't believe that he's Maui. And like the same thing happened with me. I was like, I loved this character even more after the fact because he just seems like legit, not too Hollywood. The one thing I wanted to point out of all this is I mentioned her briefly, but Michelle, I also don't know how to pronounce the last name. Yao, who plays Shang-Chi's aunt in the movie.
I was just say that's the aunt, right? From Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah. Also from the mom.
She's doing all the action stuff, right? She's almost 60 years old. And listen, out of all the super impressive. Like that's what I want to be like when I'm 60 years old. And not only that is like, so she was also in the OG Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in 2003. But listen to this also other lineup that she's either has been in or about to be in. Okay. So you have Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in 2017, Crazy Rich Asians in 2018. She was a consistent member on Star Trek Discover. If you guys didn't see the movie Gunpowder Milkshake on Netflix, which was just a totally badass shoot 'em up, John Wick meets Karen Gilliam. And she's going to be in, I was in Shang-Chi, she's going to be in Avatar 2, Avatar 3, Avatar 4.
Don't need them. Hate those movies. But yeah, it's an impressive resume. And a little bit of recency bias in there, but the movie was really good. I really did like it. And the awesome with all the representation and what it meant to the Asian culture, and the just so cool, with just the badass scenes.
To walk into Phase 4 and like have a movie like that, knock it out of the park.
Yeah,
high praise.
And I want to just let's save a little bit of time here. I'm going to jump into number 2 and say my number 2 is Shang-Chi.
Yeah, go for it.
No way.
Yep, that's my number 2. Like for a lot of the reasons you said it, like it was a stunningly beautiful film to watch. Like the choreography, the fight choreography, you don't see that very often. Is to the magnitude they did it. It was just so stunning to watch, and it was so much fun. Awkwafina, you're right, wasn't the typical over the top comedic figure, which was amazing. I didn't want her to be that in this, and they didn't make her that. And I thought she killed it. The chemistry between the two of them as friends was fantastic. I very much enjoyed the movie. I think they did an incredible job with it. And it was an amazing way, honestly, to end the pandemic, or not end the pandemic, but like come back into theaters, right? That was the first movie that was really a pandemic movie. And I think it was just such a pleasure to watch. And to me, it just catapulted up to the top of what I think are the best Marvel movies, because of so many different things to it that I think really just elevated it above others. And again, I think part of it is being Phase 4, like starting kind of a new start. Marvel movies got heavy, right? there was a heaviness really attached to it. And while there were elements of this movie, the villain was the story arc for him was tough, and just in general the family drama and the family aspect that is heavy. But the movie didn't feel heavy like Avengers and Marvel had really been for the last handful of movies. And I think that makes it to me one of the top Marvel movies.
Every Captain America movie feels like you're trudging through mud, and it's awful. I don't know, like, are you guys like repeaters, like repeat watchers? Like I'll
need to watch this one again, to be honest. I think the three of mine are very rewatchable in my opinion. And
so go with number 2. Let's hear your number 2, Sully.
Thor Ragnarok. I honestly, that's my favorite one, but I got to rank it as second best. If we're definitely a difference there, as we stated. A lot of the same reasons why you guys like Shang-Chi. It's super action sequences are insane. Beautiful movie. CGI is incredible. Taika Waititi is a stud director, and completely changed the arc of that movie series, where 1 and 2 are not that great. I wasn't that big of a fan. I didn't have high hopes, and then I go in and I basically see, the good parts of Thor are still there, and then it's just a better version of Guardians of the Galaxy, in my opinion.
I have a question for you. Playing like devil's advocate here. What do you like? Do you think that Thor Ragnarok was, though, kind of an attempt to make the separate from Guardians group, the Avengers and them, more like Guardians?
Maybe, sure. I mean, I don't see if that's a bad thing.
Fair enough.
Guardians is a really good thing, and Waititi put his own spin on it and resurrected that character, and it's the talk about soundtracks, incredible soundtrack as well. With just so many good classic rock hits over amazing, thrilling CGI. Just the bridge scene at the end. Hala, incredible bad guy, and then you got basically 2 almost bad guys that fight each other at the end. It's amazing, and it leads right into Endgame. So it's Infinity War. It's just incredible lead up to that, and it's really the last kind of semi-happy movie. What you were saying earlier, it's where it gets way heavy right after that. It's a really fun rickrolling adventure as well, and love that movie.
Erik, it's funny you said that, because in my notes, I did have trouble. I think at the end of the day, I just asked myself, would I rather watch Shang-Chi or Thor 3 like again? And it was Shang-Chi, but Thor 3, like it was just like this for me.
So rewatchable.
And I have in my notes, super rewatchable.
Yeah.
It felt like a copy and paste of Guardians, but in a very tweakable way. And that's how it felt.
I would say it's copy
because
and
I think that they saw, I think that they were like, we want Thor 3, but we don't know the direction. They saw.
Give Waititi way more credit than that.
He's a genius. But I think that he would have done it maybe a little bit more artistic and a little less on the soundtrack stuff, because I saw some of his previous stuff.
Tessa Thompson's incredible too. Jeff Goldblum's incredible.
Tessa Thompson. I mean, Tessa Thompson.
Loki, amazing. We got
who plays Helena.
Well.
I can't think of her name.
Kate Blanchett, amazing.
Yeah.
Really good.
Unbelievable.
Really good bad guy. And one of the best baddies. Loki, we really start loving him on that movie. Hemsworth obviously does his thing. Goldblum, so funny. And then of course we got Krog as well.
Yes.
Korg.
Of course.
Korg.
Korg.
Love him.
One of like the underrated best characters of Marvel, probably.
Definitely.
I mean, to be honest with you, outside of like an Avengers movie, that's probably like one of the like most like star-studded casts that Marvel has in a movie. Between like Emmy and Academy Award winners, like or like nominees.
A lot of heavy hitters.
I just cannot wait to see Tessa Thompson again in Marvel, because I didn't get enough. And
the Love and Thunder is going to be incredible. That Thor 4 is going to be even better than 3, maybe.
I hope so.
Too.
I mean,
high hopes, but
Natalie Portman's going to be back. Like the sky is truly the limit on what's going to happen.
Yeah, because he's coming off of just to wrap it up, where that character is too for Thor, coming off the Endgame and the rest of them with Guardians, it's going to be I have very high hopes for that movie.
I mean, that is the first time we're going. I mean, hopefully this isn't a spoiler to you guys, but like, I'm pretty sure if math does everything right, or we're going to see Guardians for even just a moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
movie,
for sure. They're still
you
together.
know,
yeah,
definitely.
And here's to hoping that he loses his dad bod, right?
Yeah, he did.
Do you guys like? Wait, do you guys like that
did.
Thor better than? Did he?
Yeah, he did. He like.
Oh, maybe I missed that one.
Yeah,
it's been a long.
I can totally appreciate the male form. Don't. I appreciate that.
No, dad bod was good for the movie. It was
great for the movie. But
awesome.
I can also appreciate ripped Thor too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ripped Thor. All right, my number 2, Black Panther. Mm-hmm. So for me, one of the things I will actually say that was actually common throughout my top 3 was that I actually wasn't a huge Marvel comic book fan until the movies came out. I do love comics. Like, I grew up reading Garfield comics, and I feel like I didn't get into it. And maybe that's why I feel like these are a little bit better, because they portrayed. But this is a Black Panther, and same with Shang-Chi, is you take a step, like a small step in the wrong direction, and you could have 1,000 knives coming at you for this and that. And I just think that from a complete total movie perspective, Black Panther is probably the movie that majority of the people that don't even like Marvel movies will like, no matter what, hands down. And it was actually, I actually rewatched it back on my trip out here. I hadn't seen it in a while, and obviously I'd seen the other ones more recently. And I mean, do I think that Chadwick Boseman, like RIP, did like the best Academy Award-winning performance? No, but he was perfect. Like, he was the perfect person for like the role. And honestly, I was kind of obsessed with Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger.
Killmonger was incredible.
Like, interesting fact. Did you know that Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan actually wanted to be, or auditioned to be, Falcon?
Wow.
Really?
It would be, yeah. That's amazing. That's a great fact. But yeah, I think he's one of the best villains in the MCU.
Yeah. Arguably, I think he's probably the best, because of like his rise to power without even getting the Purple Orchid before that. I mean, is wildly impressive.
He was a bad dude, and it's just his will to rise that mountain and take over the whole kingdom in one swoop is brilliant.
Yeah. But that's a good point about the villain too, because it's so hard. I feel like Marvel really does struggle to come up with good villains and to write them well. And like, he is a good example of a really well-written villain. I think, the other one being from Shang-Chi, his character arc as a villain in that movie is fantastic. So like, I feel like it's hard to find well-written villains, and Killmonger and Black Panther was definitely. I
heavily rank these movies on villains for sure. Guardians of the Galaxy, great villains. Thor, Hollow, amazing villain, and my last one, really good villain as well. So,
I mean, to be honest with you, because if you have a really worthy hero and you don't have a worthy villain, then like, what's the point of the movie? To some extent. I mean,
you gotta have them stakes.
You gotta have stakes. They gotta be high. Like, let's go. I want potential death, right?
Yeah.
I like, honestly though, I will say that I think Killmonger, like Michael B. Jordan's performance, was the best of any of the characters in that. He acted it like, yes, it was well written, but it was really well acted, like way better than it was written, I think. Well, I will say that I also think that this was the most unexpectedly funny movie out of all the Marvel movies, and to the point where, like, even rewatching it for like the 5th or 6th time, I've laughed out loud over Shuri, the sister, and the head guard, who just, how can, like, you get to, like, they're making fun of the king, and he's like kind of cool about it, but like he's like Maul, and he's like, I never freeze. And then, like at the beginning of the movie, the head of the Wakandan army is like, don't freeze when you see her. He's like, I never freeze. And he does, and she gives him shit, like, not afraid. And but anyways, I thought, like, this movie, everything was beautiful, knocked everything out of the park. Obviously, like, I still listen to the music. I hear on the radio, the music from the soundtrack. And
for sure.
Yeah.
So Heather, because we all kind of know, why don't you tell us your number one?
Shocker, right? I mean,
at least you're not wearing the shirt.
I know. I actually went neutral. I tried to go neutral this time, and I was just, but yeah, Guardians. You know what? I actually had the hardest time sitting down to write any notes for this one because I was just like, I don't know. Like it's just number one. Like there's so many reasons. I don't.
It's so obvious. Why?
It's so obvious, right? No, I think for me, like I walked into this one knowing nothing and walked away falling in love, and I felt like it had literally a little bit of truly everything. And I think that for me, it was the most complete movie of Marvel in the sense of it has action, it has romance, it has laughter, it makes you feel the different emotions. And honestly, I think that I resonated with the characters the most. And I feel like as a group, as a ragtag group of misfits, I feel like they were just more relatable and not as perfect as a Thor or as super smart and rich as Iron Man. Like, yeah, those are people that are like, cool. Yeah. But like, they're not really people that you can feel like resonated to,
and
I guess.
As my girlfriend says, you love an origin story. Gotta love an origin story there too. So they introduce you to these great characters. They're the anti-heroes of the Marvel universe, and they're goofy and fun, and they fit, and it's a great movie.
And I want to be clear to all the listeners here that Heather is saying this while staring at a framed photo from the ride of Mission Breakout, a jacket that's Guardians of the Galaxy with the backpack that matches, of course. Not to mention maybe a few shirts that might be hanging around in the closet.
She's got a Groot in her car that goes back and forth, up on her dashboard. Yeah, it's intense.
First of all, he doesn't swing back and forth. He is not a hula girl. Groot is with Rocket in the proper fighting stance. So fuck you both. Whatever. I will say though, like I appreciated the engine, like James Gunn when he made this movie, which I think anytime you do something different, it moves you. He created the movie by creating the soundtrack first and then wrote the movie based on the soundtrack. And I think that
mad props there.
That's awesome.
I mean, Sully did it. I will say this before, Eric. Sully didn't mention when he talked about the Galaxy that oftentimes when we pre-pandemic, we would drink and we would go sing karaoke. And we would go sing karaoke. And one of the songs that we would sing sometimes is the one that's like ooga chaka, ooga,
Hooked on a Feeling.
Chaka.
Hooked on a Feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, Hooked on a Feeling. And
Classic.
we would often sing that and be really drunk at a bar and sing that, screaming that from the top of our lungs. And actually one time Sully and I chest bumped after we sang it and I flung like halfway across the bar.
I thought it broke her hip.
It was like that thing at a party where everyone's like, is she okay? And I was like, I'm good.
Record scratch. She got up and ooga chaka, ooga. Yeah, it was great.
That's amazing. No, it is an incredible movie. I mean, I think we all agree it changed. I think it changed the trajectory of a lot of Marvel movies, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So I'm there.
I think Panda's having a rave in the background.
Yeah, so we have light issues. Welcome to Club Redondo. We've had the lights flicker on and off. I feel like there's either a ghost or we have some electric problems here in our building. So
Sully's trying to get us really amped for his number one pick.
Oh my God, Sully, what is it?
Playing Kernkraft over here. I'm gonna go with Endgame. I'm gonna cop out here. I just think it's the best movie front to back. It's a huge capstone. It gets you crying in the first 10 seconds. Everybody walking in there. Nobody will ever forget watching that in the theaters. It was just such a collective group experience, and you've known these characters for over a decade at this point, and it had all the pressure in the world, and it could have just completely fallen on its face, but it didn't. I mean, the Infinity Wars, I was nervous. It was good. I could have ranked both of those, but the end of Infinity War really, it's just it's gut wrenching, and it's a ginormous cliffhanger, one of the biggest in movie history. So
probably, I think it probably is the best in movie history.
Yeah, I would.
Club Redondo is lit right now.
It is popping off. The ghost.
I think you're
Thanos
right.
is pissed off. We got the ghost of Thanos in my apartment complex, and he's shut up. Turning off the lights.
No, I think you're right, Heather. It's the big. If Infinity War was the biggest cliffhanger to lead you to Endgame, and Endgame was an amazing capstone. You couldn't have said it better, Sully.
Yeah,
Sully, did you feel like the hype was too much for Endgame, and or like it delivered on the hype?
It absolutely delivered. I mean, the end scene was incredible when everybody came back, and I think the hype was pretty high, and that's why I was so nervous going into it, because there's no way they could have lived up to it. But yeah, I mean, it was 3 hours, and it felt like 2 for me because I was glued to my seat, and being a huge Hawkeye fan, I was glued from the first second when his family died, and I'm like just bawling, weeping in my chair. So yeah,
there's no way we were going to go through this podcast without a mention of Sully and Hawkeye. If not,
that's right.
Make sure it happens.
Let's go.
No matter what.
Coming up. A little lucky.
Yes, I actually have a question about that, but after all of us reveal our ones, let me ask this. So I think that part of my with Endgame, and granted, this was also what I struggled with to be number 3, was that I feel like I knew that Robert Downey Jr.'s contract was up before I walked into the movie.
That was known. That was public knowledge.
Yeah. I didn't read anything going into it. I don't want to see la 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 la. I didn't want to get any spoilers. Nothing. Yada. I didn't read any reviews. I watched the trailer once, I think, and I was just like, I don't even need to see anything again. Done.
See, yeah. I mean, I think for me, I definitely had known. I read the comics. I knew the comics, right? So like, it was less of a cliffhanger, I guess, for me, just because I kind of knew what was going to happen, right? I think they obviously did change it in some capacity. It didn't follow the comics exactly. Other people were supposed to have died in the comics that didn't die in the movies. So there's things like that. But I mean, it's I think that's part of what maybe made it less of a top movie for me, was just because I kind of already knew it, so it wasn't as much of a surprise. Whereas I feel like,
isn't that your fault though, and not the movie's fault?
Maybe, but they're
kind of blaming the movie for your previous.
It's comic book movies. They're
movies. But we're ranking the movies, not the comic books.
Yeah, but the comic books told me kind of things that were going to happen. I knew what was going to happen before the movies.
We're ranking movies.
Will say that I think expectations in this world, walking into any movie, expectations is the key, right? If you expect something that's super high, it better fucking deliver. But if you walk into a movie like something that we didn't really know much about, Shang-Chi, which was definitely not a top huge Marvel comic book character for them. It's well down the list. And they felt like, you know what, this is a great character to put into the new phase 4. But like, you walk into these movies, you don't expect much. So we're like, wow, that over delivered. And I think that when you have an expectation of, I know there's going to be a snap, and I know one of the, the guys are going to die. Like, unfortunately, I think just the nature of part of the game is that like, we may have altered realities of what we think is good or best because of that, just regardless, Yeah. That's why it makes it a matter of opinion because of that.
Sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
I respect your opinion. It's a shit opinion, but I respect it. No.
I mean, of course.
I love it. All right, Erik, number 1.
My number 1 is
not Endgame.
Not Endgame. It's Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Okay, I can live with that. That's a good one. I really like that one.
If you stopped that for Captain America, I would have walked out of this podcast.
I like the first one too. It's not number 1, but I like the first one too.
No, Captain America: Winter Soldier was like, I mean, Avengers, was like the first time, right? Everybody came together, and this was thing. But Winter Soldier changed like that changed like the whole entire story arc, right, of Avengers in the Marvel sort of universe, right? Because you all of a sudden, Shield is not Shield. Shield is an evil entity, and now that's it. Like this, that was like the downfall of the entire what they had built up, right? And it just was like, okay, wow, everything's gonna have to start over. And I just loved like that story. And I also think one of the, we talked about Shang-Chi and the fact that was used a lot of practical effects. Captain America, Winter Soldier was really well known. That movie was known for a lot of that was practical effects. They really limited the CGI. Obviously, not all of it, right? They didn't actually have.
You can't do skinny. You can't do also skinny Steve Rogers or whatever.
Right. Well, so like I will say that, and it also introduced one of my favorite characters, which is Sam. And so I really enjoyed watching the Winter Soldier because I think that it changed the story arc of Marvel. It brought it in a new direction, and it sort of was a new age of the series.
Erik, one of your favorite characters is Sam.
I enjoyed him in that movie. I think I really enjoyed his character there.
I think we need to have a conversation. There's like a billion other characters that are.
I'm not saying he's a top character. I'm saying that I enjoyed his character in the movie. I think he was a great partner to Steve Rogers in that, to Captain America, and so like I that's part of why I enjoyed the movie was I thought his role was really helped balance Captain America in that.
Stakes are huge in that movie. Love that, and I think the last time I watched it, I turned to my girlfriend and was like, I kind of forgot this is no, I liked it. No, I forgot it wasn't an Avengers. It felt like an Avengers movie because it's so epic and big, so I am A-okay with that pick.
I have a hard time rewatching any of the other Captain America movies. I think in the pandemic, I know, Erik, I don't know if you did this, but I know Sully did this and Amanda did this and I did this where we ranked we watched every single Marvel movie and we ranked them all. And Captain America for favorite, yes. And that Captain America one actually went a lot higher for me than I thought, actually. So I don't disagree with that. I just, there's just something so boring about Captain America.
It's just, yeah.
He's like the all-American boy, I'm just. Well, so
but that's why I liked it. You had Black Widow in that. You had him have to go on the defensive, right? He had to go into hiding.
I like him and Romanoff going on the run. That's a cool little segment.
Yeah. Like
give me more of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like it wasn't just he was the good boy, and he was enemy number one, right? Like that was the fun of it, I think, too.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to give for context, and then I want to ask you guys a very, very important question. For context, Rotten Tomatoes ranking, just so if anybody wants to know. The number one Marvel MCU movie on Rotten Tomatoes is Black Panther with 96%. 2, Avengers Endgame, 94%. 3, Iron Man at 94%. 4, Thor Ragnarok, 93%. 5, Spiderman Homecoming, 92%. 6, Guardians of the Galaxy with 92%. And 7 and 8 are a tie between Shang-Chi and Marvel's Avengers with 92%. So my question to you guys is something that we didn't talk about. We kind of danced around it to some extent. We talked about best Marvel movies, but let's say we were to say best Marvel content that Disney has produced. Would Loki or would WandaVision or would What If or anything else that I'm maybe not mentioning go into, would it slide into your top 3, or like where would you rank those among some of the movies? Whoever, I know I just threw a left curveball at you, but I think they're like, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I wouldn't put up there.
No, that's why I didn't even mention it, because
I just want to be clear. You said whatever else. I wanted to specifically call that out. It does not belong there, and it unfortunately is not there. The next, WandaVision, it's tough because the first 3-4 episodes were so hard for me to get through, and I know there was a reason and a purpose they did that. but I just couldn't. Like, it took me. I didn't watch them every week. I couldn't keep up with it because it took me a long time to get to watching those episodes. It was
slower start for sure.
Yeah, and it was only because Heather told me, she's like, you got to get through at least the fourth episode. And I was like, okay.
Which is a huge investment for a TV show. I mean, granted, it's only a 30-minute episode. But I mean, one of my clients and that I work with, basically someone on their team was like, I didn't watch anything Marvel. I started watching WandaVision. I picked it up at WandaVision, watched the first 3 episodes, and now wants to watch everything back. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? It's not our demographic.
Big I Love Lucy fan.
You know, but not our demographic, but the end. I mean, Catherine Hahn, arguably one of the coolest characters, I think, in the MCU.
Yeah, she's really cool.
And Loki, with Loki though, like, because when I was talking about this episode with Eliza, and she said, well, you guys can talk about Loki or like WandaVision. I said, honestly, I think it's a great conference. I think I'm going to ask them because it is interesting. If you put Loki all together to make
Loki
it
and What If are better than the first 2.
Yeah, I think for me, What If ranks the highest.
Yeah, it was great.
What If I watched that like weekly. Like I couldn't keep up. Like I really enjoyed What If. I enjoyed the world it created. It was so much fun to watch.
Yep.
It was probably my favorite thing to
watch.
Ups
and downs, turns. I love the different themes of each, the zombie themes, and it was super fun. And the fact it all tied together.
The best episode was Star-Lord T'Challa. I mean, literally, like when I saw that poster, I was like,
it's your top 2.
God, like my favorite things are happening like at the same time, and I don't even know what to do with myself. Like, we
got Yondu back. That was really cool.
That was so good.
Okay, outside of
I'd put that like in the top.
Yep. It's up there. So yeah, I'm as a Hawkeye fan, I've read all those comics that coming up. It's got a dog. It's got Kate Bishop. It's got Hawkeye.
2 weeks.
Yep, 2 weeks. It's gonna be so great. It's gonna be. I think I would say, going back to your expectations thing, Heather. I don't think many people have high expectations for this, and I think it's going to be a perfect little Christmas. Little star on the Christmas tree. It's gonna be good.
And I hope, fingers crossed, that if all of my stupid, Marvel conspiracy theory readings are right, I really hope that we're gonna see Florence Pugh at some point in the Hawkeye series.
Well, yeah, it's not even a conspiracy theory. She's going
right.
After
She's
him.
confirmed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's. I think that's going to be. I think it's going to be a little team up there between her and Kate. That'll be fun.
That'll be a lot of fun. If you guys had to pick one outside of, for obvious reasons, outside of the T'Challa Star-Lord episode, if you guys had to pick one of those What If episodes that Marvel makes a movie out of, like a legit live action movie, which one of those would you choose?
Hold on.
So we have Captain Carter, one that wasn't in season 1, that will be in season 2. Was Gamora in the she was in the Titan. She was in Thanos's like gear, but they didn't finish it in the pandemic for season 1, so it will be in season 2, even though she was featured in season 1. But Party Thor, I mean,
Doctor Strange.
Party Thor, you can't take that too far. That's kind of hard played out. I really like the Killmonger, Tony Stark one was really, really strong.
Oh yeah.
That was super fun where he rescued Tony, and that's one of my favorite episodes. So I honestly like Captain Carter. I could watch a Captain Carter movie.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, Captain Carter, that'd be badass. Like, she is already a badass woman. Like, seeing that be a movie would be really cool.
Yeah, she was a bad woman.
I'm game, even if it's played by the same. Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me
just makes me
I'm holding it
so
in
much
right now.
I cringed when you said that. Like, that Panda was probably like, never say that again.
Okay, well, I will ask. Do you guys have any honorable mentions that you want to talk about? Something that Lindsey and I we do it for every episode. We've talked about all of mine, which is Endgame and Ragnarok. But
Ragnarok was going to be was one of the ones I was debating between. So that's for me. It was hilarious. Like I still say, I work with him. You know, like that's such a funny moment.
OG Avengers getting the team together. I mean, that's worth mentioning. I love that movie. Very rewatchable.
You know, if we had to go top 10, Iron Man would be on my top 10, but it definitely wasn't on top 3. Definitely not. Yeah.
No, I think Thor Ragnarok for me and Endgame really was. I mean, it was the star-studded cast. They brought everybody.
Yep. It was the entire band, and some of the band dies, and it's what
anytime you can get me to cry like a giant baby. Not once, but like almost twice, I think, in that movie.
No, for like the last hour, I think you were.
I was gonna say, like, I think multiple times. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I don't think I stopped. Like once Natasha died, I was like, it was an uncontrollable sob. Like it was like a. And it's funny because like once you get there and they start talking, I was like, oh, I know what's going down, and it's definitely not Hawkeye. It's definitely not Hawkeye. You know.
Yeah. It couldn't be.
But yeah. Guys,
honorable mention. I did enjoy Black Widow.
Yeah, really good spy movie.
Black Widow.
Yep. People might forget that one is there, but to me that one was a lot of fun to watch, and I enjoyed it. But real funny story about that, though. By the way, sidetrack. We went to see Black Widow in the theaters, and you know when it came out, kind of in the pandemic there still, and. The movie finished after watching these badass women kick ass for like 2 hours, right? Like they are moving, they're flipping, they're kicking everybody to the kicking their asses.
Flipping their hair. Why do you flip your hair?
Yeah.
Why do you flip your hand?
And I get up from my chair at the movie theater where I've been sitting and eating popcorn, and I cramp up. I'm like, oh my God, cramp my leg. Like it was the saddest thing I think Lauren's ever seen me do.
I think that movie made me laugh like uncontrollably out loud. I mean, Florence Pugh is easily one of my favorite Marvel characters. The only problem is Shang-Chi came out right afterwards, and I was like, oh, I mean, like it just overshadows it, you know?
Yeah. And
bigger scale. But it was good to put a bow on
you're right. It's totally different scale. Totally, Eric, I'm happy you threw a bone to it. I mean, like I think at one point I was like, maybe I should be Florence Pugh for Halloween. You know, the vest with all the pockets. Like, there's so many pockets, right?
You need to find some tight white leather. Good luck.
Ask Amanda how she feels about tight white leather and wearing it all around. I guarantee it's probably like a hell no. I can't even imagine how horrible it was.
That's why you got to get a utility vest and then maybe a fanny pack or something.
Utility belt or something, because but
I mean, you can just get a fanny pack and look the same.
Probably, probably. Guys, I'm really impressed with your list. I thought we were gonna fight way more. I didn't think, Sully, that Guardians was gonna be on yours. So
I didn't.
Thank you.
I switched it at the last second. It was gonna be Infinity War, but I couldn't put both on there, right? Like
that would be a real fucking cop out, and I would have definitely.
It would have been a huge cop out. Yeah, I agree.
See, and that's the thing, though. You know, like while we wanted to do the best movies, we really had to make it super subjective, right?
Yeah.
Because objectively, right, it's easy. It's Endgame, Infinity War, like the ones that really rank at the top are easy to say. Those are the best, right? And I think we did a really good job. Choo-choo, whatever. But like we did a really good job, like trying to think and be like, what do we think is the favorite, is the best, not the favorite, sorry, is the best. And I think that was the difference, is that's why it's super subjective instead of it being like, let's look at Rotten Tomatoes or let's look at Metacritic, right?
Yeah, I think it's easy. I mean, for me, it's just, of course, it's easy to put Avengers Endgame because of the amount of people in it, but does it make it the best movie just because
Sully believes yes, Heather.
I never once mentioned the amount of people in it. I said it was a really good capstone to 10 years of work, and the stakes were too high, and it did not fail. And for that, it should be number one.
No, I'm not saying that, but I think when I was going through my list,
I did not mention.
I'm trying to figure out. I did. I mentioned it. I fucking did it. I mentioned it. I'm just like, there's so many people. Of course, people are going to pick this as one of the best movies, but like for me, like Infinity War wasn't a complete movie. I don't want the most massive cliffhanger at the end of a movie. Like that's it is a part one. It is not a movie.
It's a part one, right? They were taping both of them at the same time, and that did a little disservice to the first one. I get it. How it's easier for continuity purposes and just easier, probably cost cutting purposes, to be honest. Not that they cared. They spent $200 million on the freaking marketing alone for Endgame. So yeah, I'm with you. You can't put Infinity. That's why I'm glad I switched it. You can't put it in top three.
Yeah. I know. But those, I mean, regardless, they are some of the best movies. I mean, anybody that watches, I think the only one of all the like, let's get the cast together that is not my favorite is Civil War. I think that's not arguable.
I agree.
Oh boy. It is unpopular Disney opinions. We had to finish with one of them.
Wait, what about
Erik
Spider-Man
just said
3?
He agreed.
I agree with Nick on that. What about Spider-Man 3? Are we doing not Disney, Marvel?
But it's technically MCU. Like it's a Marvel movie.
Yeah, Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Spider-Man movies, but maybe I don't understand. I feel like there is an infatuation with Spider-Man, and I don't get it.
Who doesn't like emo Spider-Man? Like, I mean, I don't know. Anywho.
I love
Zendaya. Wait, we're not talking Homecoming. We're talking like the Tobey Maguire emo one. Yes. Is you're putting
fuck that, Erik. Go away.
Oh God, I don't think I ever finished that movie. I think I walked. That might have been one of the only movies I've ever walked out of the theater.
I'm kidding. It's not even anywhere on the list.
I can't even. Like as soon as he was doing like the Fallout Boy head swoop, like T-Nex, I'm just like, I'm gone. See ya. I didn't even make it to Venom in that movie. I'm just like, I'm out.
Well, we don't even need to have Sullivan for worst Marvel movies because there it is, right there.
There's one.
I would think that actually the worst Marvel movies though is actually a very small list, and it's there would be a lot of overlap.
Thor.
Thor 1. You know what though? Have you guys ever seen the Ed Norton Hulk?
Oh yeah, that's number one by far. Yeah, in the rewatch, refused to rewatch it. I watched like
really the top
movie
between that and Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, exactly. I watched that movie in 5 minutes or whatever on YouTube video to get through it, so to count on the rewatch list. But I already knew where it was going. It was going at the bottom.
Real quick story, and then we'll head out. The only reason why I bring that up this was like a year or two ago. I was at home, and my dad does this thing where he just flips the channels very incessantly, like he has like ADD. And he stopped on one channel, and he was like, "What do you think this is?" He's like,
"What the hell is this?"
He's like, "Let's guess." And he said, "Let's figure out how long it takes." Because we're watching it for like a minute. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "We should just continue to watch it and just guess what it is." And it was the Hulk's Ed Norton. And
like
I felt
15
like
minutes and still hadn't seen the Hulk.
It took us about 8 minutes. And then at the very end of that 8-minute mark, or like 7 or 8 minute mark, I heard the word banner. I was like, "Oh my God, it's the Hulk movie." He's like, "No, it's not. This movie is absolutely terrible." And then he clicks the guy. He's like, "Oh fuck, it is the Hulk movie." Like,
so bad. There's your clue right
so
there.
bad. Like, yeah, guys, thank you so much. I know my sister is thankful for you both. You guys are amazing.
Awesome.
I can't wait to have you guys both on for next season. I know Lindsey's excited to get to have you both on next season.
Top 3 Hawkeye episodes when I come back on. It's gonna be that good.
It's gonna be that good. We'll rank everything else Marvel, and Hawkeye will be number 1.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's got a lot to live up to, but anyway.
It's got a dog. Lucky's gonna steal the show.
I don't know. Those dogs in Cruella though.
They're
pretty good. They're pretty good. Anyways, Sully, Erik, thank you again. I really appreciate it. We will see you back for season 2. And yeah, let us know what you think. Lindsey will be back next week for the final episode of Unpopular Disney Opinions, and we're going to talk about worst rides to get stuck on, and hopefully it's not a bad omen to when we go
I've
to
been
Disney
stuck on
World. I'm going to tell the story, Sully, so don't you worry.
Just a
It's one of
tease
my
right there. Just a tease.
It's one of my favorite stories of all time. Believe it or not, if I have to have an all-time favorite Disney story, it is Sully. You getting stuck on that ride. Teaser.
That's amazing.
Is one of them.
Love
is
it.
one of them. All right, guys. Thank you so much.